morning, and thank you for joining me on Crossfire, being Feedback Friday today, where we also discuss trending stories which made the round during the week. My name is Aga Inushima, and it's a pleasure having you joining me on the program. And remember, Feedback Fridays are never complete until you also be a part of the conversation. Now, we'll quickly go to some of the trending stories which we have, and then the rest will take in the course of the program. But then, joining me on the discussion today is no other than Barrister Eze Eluchie. He is a legal practitioner and, of course, a political and policy analyst. Now, the first on my list, the Senate on Thursday passed the bill for the establishment of the Maritime University of Nigeria Delta State, with the provision that the institution should be funded with 15% of the annual budgetary allocation of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. We'll take more information on that story when we return from the break. Now, the next on my list, also the Senate, the Nigerian Senate on Thursday postponed the laying of report on the 2017 appropriation bill to Tuesday next week. Now, the committees on appropriations in the Senate and House of Representatives, respectively, had planned to present their reports yesterday. Now, while the presentation was listed on the other paper for the plenary, both the majority leader of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, announced that both chambers of the National Assembly were still harmonizing the versions of the report. He said, and I quote, "I have also equally been informed that by the grace of God, definitely the budget 2017 will be laid on Tuesday. Having said this, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I will move that we stand down this report to Tuesday, the next legislative day." In other stories, the Deputy Senate President, Mr. Ike Ekweremadu, has raised the alarm over the alleged plan by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to raid his home in Enugu State and plant incriminating items in it. He further alleged that the proposed raid was to ensure his arrest, detention, and indictment with the aim of frustrating his political ambitions. The Deputy Senate President alleged that the mission was to move against him was being sponsored by a cabal in the presidency. Now, Mr. Ekweremadu, who raised a point of order at the plenary on Wednesday, said he was informed of the alleged plan by a whistleblower close to the EFCC. In other stories, the three-man presidential investigative committee set up by President Muhammadu Buhari under the chairmanship of the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to inquire into the discovery of foreign and local currencies by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission at Osborne Towers, Ikoyi, Lagos, and the allegations of due process violations in the awards of contract under the Presidential Initiative on the Northeast, is completing its assignment. Well, it did complete its assignment yesterday and is scheduled to present its report to President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday, May 8, 2017. Now, this statement was made by the media aide to the Vice President, Laolu Akonde. President Buhari on April, remember that President Muhammadu Buhari on April 19th suspended both men and ordered a full investigation led by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. Now, the last on my list for now, the National Caretaker Committee of the People's Democratic Party has alleged that a cabal is now ruling Nigeria. How true that is, well, of course, you get to share your opinion on that. But according to him, it's believed that the health challenge of President Muhammadu Buhari has shown that some individuals have taken over the running of the government from the ailing president. Now, the reaction of the committee followed the inability of President Muhammadu Buhari to attend the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting for the third consecutive week. Though there is nothing unusual in the president being sick, I mean, anybody can fall sick. But then the former ruling party submitted that what was bad was the refusal of the president to disclose the true state of his health. Now, we'll go on a quick break, and then when we return, we'll also treat other stories and, of course, share opinions on some of the issues we've raised. We'll be right back.
Let me move this chair closer.
Thank you for joining us on Crossfire. Of course, you're welcome to the program. I have Barrister Eze Eluchie in the studio, and of course, he'll be doing justice to the discussions today. You're welcome, Barrister Eze.
Thank you very much, and viewers at home.
I know with the rains yesterday in the city of Lagos, I mean, I was really surprised that you actually braved the weather to be here. But then thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so quickly we'll take a look at the first story I did read out earlier. Now, the Senate yesterday, we were expecting that the Senate will have completed everything as regards the 2017 appropriation bill. But then, of course, it was moved to the next legislative day, meaning Tuesday next week. Okay. What do you foresee? I mean, do you really see a National Assembly that's ready? Because the truth is, and the truth stands, all over the world, nations are built based on budgetary allocations. Nations are built, infrastructures are built based on what the government, especially the executive arm, can do, can spend to rejig the economy. But now we seem to see a legislative arm that's a little bit lackadaisical as regards pertinent issues. I mean, this delay, what do you think? What's your opinion? What do you make out of it?
The reality is that we seem not to understand what the National Assembly is for. Okay. I mean, they actually serve like a vetting process to whatever has been churned out from the executive in the form of a budget. The budget starts with the executive submitting its proposals to the National Assembly.
How long should that take?
Now, if there is a delay in the executive submitting this proposal to the National Assembly, you don't expect them to now pass out everything overnight. Just to become a rubber stamp legislature. They have to like go through the figures. This year was very peculiar. Okay. There were several ministries and MDAs, agencies and departments of government, that just submitted the same thing they did last year to the National Assembly. No changes, no whatever. The same number of cars that were bought last year, the same number of personnel, they just replicated it and submitted to the National Assembly. And there was, these agencies were called. Some of them refused to even answer the calls of National Assembly. So the delay, you have to understand what the delay is all about. The delay is that somebody sees that by sitting down in their offices, they will now put pressure on the Nigerians to start accusing the National Assembly that you've not done your work. But the work of the National Assembly is to go through all the items in the budget to be sure that there is no hanky-panky being played, that it's not a repetition of last year's budget. And I think it's a process that we have to perfect with time. Okay. Part of the fault, again, is the structure of the National Assembly. The National Assembly should have a budget office that is equipped with and populated by appropriate personnel who are like core civil servants who are into budgeting. Now, you don't expect politicians to go through audited reports and accounts. Yeah. What are they going to see? They only see the bottom line, the figures.
But then there should be politicians with distinguished resumes in certain fields.
No matter how...
So irrespective of that, I mean, you can also look at it from another angle. If it's with the personal businesses, irrespective of the fact that they are politicians, they will take the time and scrutinize every item.
No, if it was their personal businesses, they will make sure that they recruit appropriate personnel to scrutinize.
Yeah, but then of course, of course, they will also make their due diligence themselves.
Well, the bottom line is this:
when it comes to Nigeria, how come we tend to see nonchalance, delay?
Yes, it's a systemic problem, and it starts from even the preparatory processes. The budget, who prepares it? Civil servants who just sit down. Okay, last year we budgeted 20,000. Let us make it 40,000 this year. There's no parameters. And the budget process should have been, at that stage, open to CSOs and CBOs. Okay. That CSOs should be coming in to understand how this thing is going on and making inputs. But what you see is that...
In accordance with market realities.
Not just market reality, with the laws, the budget laws. It should be open to the public. But nobody sees what happens at that stage. All we now see is that something is presented to the National Assembly. Like this one that was presented was a fiasco. It had to be withdrawn. It got missing along the line. And one of the issues that is delaying the project process is that the police, for instance, and the security agencies have been harassing some of these legislators. We just had...
You refer to that as harassing?
Now...
You think...
Now, well...
No. Let me quickly ask this.
Yes.
If the Nigerian police force,
yes,
as the chief protector of security internally, I'm not talking about the military, internally,
yes,
and they receive concrete security evidence as regards certain informations being at the wrong place and in the wrong hands. You're saying they shouldn't.
They should act with dispatch. They should act with dispatch. But common sense and precedent tells us that all such invitations, all such harassments, all such last-minute arrests lead to zero. So, I mean, we are basing on what has been transpiring in the past. Okay. You bungle into the chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations House, you cut out documents, and then the next day you return it and say sorry.
What you can also say as incriminating documents.
I mean, whatever it is, but the reality is that nobody has been prosecuted. And this has continued for several times. So you don't blame us for not suspecting or thinking that these were like trumped up affairs to interfere in the legislative processes. So that the bottom line is this. What we're now saying in the country is a cumulative effect of the systemic decay we have been having for
Now,
years.
let's quickly look at this other story. Although I didn't take the story, but then a former chief of army staff during the Second Republic, Lieutenant General Alani Akinriade, retired, has criticized members of the National Assembly, saying they are a bunch of clowns. Now, he made this, the 7-year-old federal, 7-year-old rather, made this, via a video which he released, on Sahara Reporters.
Yes.
Now, according to him, they are the most dishonorable people I knew in the world.
Yes.
And of course, so do you think, for someone who has been in the
Yes.
Second Republic,
Yes.
a lot of Nigerians have seen activities, some statements, some jamboree
Yes.
perpetrated by certain members of the National Assembly.
I agree.
They are pertinent issues and
Yes.
Nigerians deserve.
Yes.
For example, the Petroleum Industry Bill,
Good.
issues as regards securing the national borders, laws, herdsmen attack, we haven't found closure to that. And of course, we know certain legislative processes will put, to a large extent, curb some of these activities.
Agreed.
We haven't seen anything coming from the National Assembly.
Yes.
So if you say right now, let me link it also to what you said earlier, if you're saying right now that it seems the executive is interfering, don't you think it's also because we have, probably in the words of the former chief of staff, probably dishonorable persons in the National Assembly?
Well, thank you for that comment. When I watched Lieutenant General Akinriade make those comments yesterday, I was disgusted.
Really?
This is a man who should know far, far better. He's a general. He retired as a general. There are generals who peed in their pants. The former chief of general staff at Deer, when he was arrested for coup plotting, he peed in his pants and was kneeling down begging Abacha for his life. A very shameful and despicable disposition from a general. Should we now, on account of that, say all generals in Nigeria are shameful and useless? You don't categorize the whole National Assembly, made up of over 400 and something legislators, senators and members of the House of Reps, elected from various angles, people who have reached the pinnacle of the profession in various cadres. Okay. You now, because of one or two bad eggs in the system, you categorize all of them as dishonorable. General Akinriade shamed his military uniform. He shamed himself by such comments. He should have been more specific and not categorize the entire Senate. Because when you categorize the entire Senate, I voted for some of them. Some of them are representing you and I. You don't do that anywhere in the world. Let me give a clear example. The person who is now the British foreign minister is noted as a clown. He was clowning all over during the Brexit process. Yeah. But the moment he becomes the British foreign minister, he is the British foreign minister, and you respect his office. Okay. So the moment, even if I know who he was referring to Senator Dino Malaye, who was about dancing and drunken about on media, which was a very despicable act. Mention him and castigate him. Don't tell me the whole Senate, the whole House of Reps. I won't take such nonsense from Lieutenant Akinriade.
Okay, now let's also look at it this way.
It was a shame.
Aside the statements made by the retired general,
yes,
as citizens, as Nigerians,
yes,
a lot of persons, especially the youth, because at the end of the day, youths are supposed to be the future leaders of tomorrow's generations.
They're the present leaders.
No.
That future is, I mean,
so
the person that will likely be the president of France is 39 years old.
Exactly.
There are ministers in Europe all over in their 20s.
But so, in Nigeria, it's a total different ballgame.
We should change
but then, exactly, we should change that. But at the end of the day, yes, youths look up to those in certain positions, especially positions of political leadership.
Good.
When you look at the National Assembly, you
yes,
have the bulk of these individuals, either who have been facing certain charges
yes,
by the EFCC, by the ICPC, either during cases as regards money laundering, financial crimes, dating over 5 years ago. But many of them are still seated there.
Yes.
Now, as it's practical all over the world, ideally, honorable men, the minute they have certain issues as regards crime, certain court cases, what do? They step down.
Yes.
They face it. They face the music. And then when they're cleared by the court, they return back.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, we don't seem to have that happen in our own society.
Yes.
So even if you castigate the general saying that statement is a disrepute to the military uniform, but then to the Nigerian people who look at these individuals, especially the youth, who cannot get clear-cut direction from these individuals, don't you think really these individuals, really the bulk of them, are dishonorable? Now,
you've asked a very pertinent question, and on its face value, it looks unfaultable. But you have to extend it.
Okay.
We also had a president who had issues with his certificate. Should we have expected him to resign while the whole process is being adjudicated when going through the court processes? We have seen
But don't you think that matter was laid to rest already?
Well, it was
He who alleges must
no,
prove.
no, what I'm saying is...
And then the people who were alleging could not prove.
Oh, beautiful. He who alleges must prove. Have the allegations against the people in the Senate and the House of Reps been proved?
But then it's still in court. No. It's still in court.
No, you've just...
There is still a court process.
You said he who alleges must prove.
Yes.
So what is good for the goose is good for the gander. If we have a system that allows the president, who despite the stigma of not having certificates, and a case being challenging his stay in office was going on, but he continued to be in the presidency, then we should also allow those in the legislature. I'm not saying that that process is right.
Yeah.
What we should have had is a better vetting process that will ensure that such characters don't even get to contest. But then the issue is this. These very youths...
But then at the end of the day, these
very youths are the same youths that will go and collect money from these rascals elements you are referring to and vote them in, even be their thugs. So we have to search our souls because the process is going to start very soon.
Yeah.
We have to ask ourselves, am I ready to vote for somebody who I know is a criminal? Because you have many of these guys, these characters who are governors, senators, House of Reps, they have no ostensible means of livelihood. And they are rich, which means they are thieves. I mean, you don't do anything. You're not doing nothing. And you have all these cars, all the houses. That means something is wrong somewhere. But then, because you're able to dish out some scrums to youths, they are ready to kill and put you into office, and then we now come back and discuss, should they have resigned? Resign to where? The system has to perfect itself, and then we make that demand. And luckily, that's the beauty of democracy. Yeah. You have every 4 years to make a choice. 2019 is coming again.
The youths of Nigeria. Yes.
It's not too long.
It's long, actually.
Okay, well, actually it starts by this year. The parties start jockeying for positions, primaries, and all that stuff. So the youths have an opportunity. Those you know that have records, bring them out. There's not a whistleblower policy. Reveal such issues and let them be scared from even contesting. Then we may have a better system by 2019. But for now, let us patch up what we have.
Okay then. If you also want to be a part of this conversation, please, the phone lines will be scrolling across the TV screen. So, of course, pick up your phone and then make your contributions on some of the stories. Now, quickly, let me take your opinion. Now, the three-man presidential committee, which was set up by President Muhammadu Buhari to investigate the allegations against, the SGF and, of course, the NIA boss. What do you think will come out of it come Tuesday?
Well, the whole process is a disaster. Now,
a disaster in what way?
A disaster
you do not have faith.
Now, listen. A crime is alleged to have been committed.
Okay.
Even the Senate just recently urged the police and security agencies to prosecute.
Okay.
What do you need a panel for? Where does that panel fall in? Under what's... you steal something or somebody you are alleged to have stolen, allegations have been made, the appropriate authorities, which is in this case, either the police, the EFCC, or whoever is interested in such financial scams, should have come into this matter and arrested the man and maybe begin their investigations.
Okay.
Now you set up a three-man panel.
But then there are persons who were appointed by the presidency. No. There are persons who work with the presidency. So don't you think the president, yes, was right? And if they are found guilty of any crime, of any misappropriation of any sort, then they will be handed over to the police for prosecution.
You know what I'm saying now? A man steals in the village. Okay, since he's a member of the village, let the village committee set up a committee that will look into his stealing and blah, blah, blah. And they're all his cronies and friends. He's been sitting down with them in the Federal Executive Council for months. And what do you think we'll expect from such a report? I mean, I don't even look forward to such reports. It would have been better if the EFCC or the police had investigated. Then we know that professionals have investigated it and gone through this record. Now you have a vice president who is governing the country. You have the AGF, the Attorney General of the Federation, who is taking care of several other issues. You have the National Security Advisor, Mungonu, who is also implicated in the allegations as part of the investigating team, and you expect Nigerians to look forward to it? Look forward to what? If the police or EFCC have stepped in and picked this man and asked him questions, then yes. But the three-man committee, let's think of something else. I mean, that's just the reality. We have to be very, very practical.
All right, then. All right, then. That was brief and then straight to the point. Yes. Now, quickly to another story. Now, the Deputy President of the Senate, Mr. Ikweremadu, came out to say, of course, he raised the alarm over the alleged plan by the EFCC to raid his house in Enugu State. And then a whistleblower from the EFCC, they're planning to plant incriminating documents and then rub him in and all of that and all of that and all of that. Yes. What do you think? You think it's just a foul cry, or you think it's something that on the long run may not work well for our democracy, knowing fully well he is a deputy senior president, and like you said, like you used the word earlier,
Yes.
hunting, going after members of the legislative.
Yes.
What do you make out of this?
Well, when you've seen people around you being hunted, it is natural to, whether there is evidence or not, to feel you will be hit next. And then when you look at the comments made by those in the ruling party concerning even the emergence of Ike Ekweremadu right from the very day he became the deputy Senate president, I would not blame him for trying to raise the bar that, look, see what I'm hearing, see what I'm thinking of. And it will not be impossible for such even things to happen, because Goje is not different. The various arrests, the partisan nature of the prosecutions or persecutions has continued almost unchallenged. If you're now being hunted, the next thing I can do is to jump ship and cross over to the APC. So that gives you a very practical basis to look into what this Deputy Senate President is saying. I'm not saying he's being very factual or being very straightforward, or that there is actually an attempt against him. Like the FCC came out and denied, but they've been denying all such stuff. But then the reality is this: there is a sense of persecution. There is a sense that the opposition is being persecuted, and it's clear, it's right. It's reflected in the number of arrests and those who have been prosecuted, and the fact that those who are in the ruling party, no matter how much allegations have been leveled against them, panels only get set up that will look into their matter, and that's the end.
But then don't you think the Deputy Senate President was too forward in making such statements open to the public, knowing fully well that he probably does not have concrete evidence to release out to people, saying, look, this is what is about to happen?
Guarding yourself to your safety, or trying to insure yourself. If I was in his shoes, I would have done much more. Apart from even just announcing that the Senate hold a world press conference and do more than that. Because the reality is this: if you don't begin to scream, I mean, when you see it coming, it will hit you and then you're gone. I mean, that's just the reality. But the moment we begin to see that the security agencies are not being partisan, that their arrests, their investigations, their prosecutions cut across party lines, then we will now tell Ike Ekweremadu to shut up. But as of today, seeing what we're seeing, knowing who and who has been prosecuted, who is being investigated, who is under arrest, we have to give some credence to what Ike Ekweremadu is saying.
Okay, now, also, one of the stories which I read out earlier as regards President Muhammad Buhari for the third time consecutively for the third week consecutively has missed the Federal Executive Council meeting.
Yes.
Well, the reasons, the specifics, Nigerians do not know. But then, of course, inference and then from the statement made by the Minister for Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the president is only following doctors' orders to rest. Now, of course, we have a vice president who is also the head of the economic team. Yeah. Of course, the ministers are there. The FEC is duly constituted. Do you think people are making so much fuss about President Muhammad Buhari not attending the FEC meeting? Does it make any difference, knowing fully well that the cabinet is fully constituted, the vice president is ably represented there, and don't you think people are just blowing this out of proportion?
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Why?
Because leadership is a matter of trust and integrity.
And then the president has trust. He has a lot of respect for the vice president and other members in the FEC. Well,
the issue is there was a mandate given to the president because he created or he exuded this ambience or persona of integrity, piety, anti-corruption and everything. So the mandate actually was between the people of Nigeria and the president. So if, for instance, he comes out and says, look, I have ABC ailment, and this is what is going on. Be truthful, be frank with us. We all fall sick. I had surgery a couple of weeks ago. Even as we are there have been several people who died when on live TV for one freak accident or the other. We are all mortal. But then when you now begin to shroud the president's health in mystery, you give room for all manners of rumors. You give room for all manner of charlatans to come and cash into the system and blow it out of proportion. So what has been missing in this whole brouhaha is that there has been lack of transparency. There has been lies told. People told us the president was hale and healthy. When he himself, we saw him, he had emaciated terribly. And that something was wrong. We pray that this president lives long and at least serves his mandate. Because there are several things he promised Nigerians which he's not even began to scratch. So we pray he comes back on duty. But then the reality is this: Mr. President, sir, let us know what is wrong with you. Let us know what is wrong.
So if you know, If Nigerians know, does it change anything?
It does.
What does it change?
Now, if we know, and then we know that this man is incapable of continuing, then he has to leave office because the Nigerian situation needs 100% hands on deck.
Now, let me ask this question
Yes.
because over time, there has been a lot of clamor saying, look, the problem with Nigeria is that we have built strong individuals and not strong institutions.
Beautiful.
Now, let's use this as a classical example.
Yes.
The president is unable to appear before the public.
Good.
Doesn't mean he is not working behind closed doors. Does not mean the vice president is not working. Does not mean the Federal Executive Council is not working.
Yes.
We want to build a strong Nigeria.
Yes.
Remember that the president and the vice president are one. Just like you have in the religious circle, in Christendom, you can say God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, they are one. Now, in Nigeria, politically, the vice president and the president, they are one. One joint political ticket.
Yes.
In building strong institutions, the vice president is working.
Yes.
So don't you think, I mean, all of these statements saying, no, we need to know what's wrong with you, or no, you should resign, you should step down, the vice president, hand over to the vice president. But then the vice president is working.
Now,
We're
you
just
see,
making things
more
difficult.
We don't discuss Nigeria in a vacuum. We use the antecedents, what transpired in the past.
In 2009, you mean?
Good. With the Yar'Adua presidency,
Okay.
we had a situation where we had a president who had actually become comatose. He was no longer he was no longer working, he was no longer functional. And then we had a situation where his wife and some other elements around him were now ruling the country and doing as they catered for, as they wanted. Now, with that background, with that experience, Nigerians are fearing that...
Can I puncture that? Can I puncture
please,
that?
Yeah, you can later. In this same instance, we are having letters coming out from the presidency, conflicting letters. One of the things that even exposed that something was terribly wrong with the system, and we cannot continue with that, is the EFCC chairman nomination. The EFCC's chairman is nominated by the presidency. Another agency of the presidency, the DSS, writes a castigatory report that forestalls the approval by the Senate of the EFCC chairman. That tells us that the so-called letter that emanated from Mr. President could not have emanated from him because it is the same president that chairs over the DSS and the EFCC. Now,
But then the president isn't the one who writes the letter. But let me quickly punch on that statement earlier. The difference, categorically, if we can look at it from the surface and analytically, in 2009, there was no letter transmitting, handing over power. There was no letter to the Senate, as at that time, handing over power to the then Vice President, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. But now, when the President did travel,
but there's no letter
there
now.
was a letter. When the President did travel, there was a letter. As far as the President is...
now?
As far as the President is within the country, do you think he should transmit a letter?
If he's sick.
Because he is working behind
look,
closed doors. Remember, he had meetings. Remember, on Tuesday evening, he worked. He had meetings with the Minister for State
He worked
for
with you or with
Petroleum.
who? Somebody goes into a room and comes and tells us whatever he wants to tell us.
Okay.
Now, we have ministers who have lied, giving us barefaced lies. We had a Senate president who went to London with the Speaker of the House and they came back and were telling us the president was hale and healthy. When we saw him, we saw that this man was terribly sick. So we don't want this second-hand information again.
Okay.
Nigerians elected you, Mr. President, General Buhari. Address Nigerians. If you can address, make phone calls to come out and address us. If you are sick, let us know. Then we'll pray for you. We know what we're praying for. We can't pray in a vacuum, like people have been saying.
All right, then. Okay, we're good at praying in the country then.
Yes.
But then we'll go on a quick break, and then when we return, we'll go into other stories. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and then of course this is the Crossfire. I still have BARR EZE Eluchie in the studio, and he's been very vocal on his opinion as regards some of the happenings in the country. Now quickly, BARR, let me take your opinion on this. We talked about it yesterday as regards security in the country. Yesterday, the Nigerian military were able to, of course, avert a tragedy which was, which would have taken place close to the military point in Borno State, where 3 female suicide bombers were shot dead, and of course the explosives were found on them because of the suspicious movement and the rest of them. You look at, move away from the northeastern part of the country, the south-south, the southeast, the southwest, every part of the country has one issue or the other. You're talking about young youths, young teenagers who suddenly have gotten themselves tangled in the web of cultism and banditry. There's so much light weapon in circulation in the country. So let's look at it from this angle. What exactly is the problem? In 2015, there was a report which was released talking about 60% of the ammunitions in the country were made locally. So far, we have not seen so much coming from the Nigerian police force in curbing this. Yes, we know that some weeks back, the federal government came out to say that, look, they know what's happening in the country, and then they were making moves to curbing that. And then, of course, they were considering also using whistleblower, the whistleblower policy, probably as a way of introducing it so that people can give information on those who have weapons, light weapons, and the rest of this. But then what exactly is happening? Because it's becoming really alarming. No day passes without one security issue or the other. Armed robbery, kidnapping, armed banditry, whatever it is you call it. What do you think is happening?
Well, like the Americans will say, we ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, what I say
is that supposed to give us comfort or make us more apprehensive?
It's to make us be realistic. Because we've not even begun to address the issue of security in this country. In my village in Imo State, when I take a walk, when I travel home and take a walk in the village, I see young men in their 20s, 30s, in their teens, loitering around. No work, no hope, hopeless. And this is replicated all over the country. These young men want to have a family. They want to have a house. They want to drive cars. And they will do it. Now, the system has forgotten about them. When I served in Kaduna over some decades back, I asked that was my first time of experiencing the almajiris. After we finish eating as coppers, you will see men and boys, they'll come and start taking away the scrapings of what we've finished to eat. For decades, the Nigerian system has neglected its people. The so-called rulers have lined their pockets with billions of dollars and taken their children out of the country. But then the rest of us here, we have to think of what we have to do with what we are facing. All over this country, it's not a matter of how many policemen you have on the street, because the policeman also has families. And then the policeman who actually does the bulk of the work, you leave him with even the basic materials. He has no welfare. He has nothing to motivate him. I have friends who are DPOs and who are the various sector commands of the police. They tell me that they have to fund their various units. What happens to the bulk of the budget for security given to the police? It is shared at by the very top hierarchy, who tell the ones at the stations, the DPOs and the area commanders to go and fight crime. With what? With what? And then their own idea of fighting crime is to shoot and kill. Look, we have to be serious with this country. We have to really ask ourselves, what do we want in this country? Because when the kind of graft, corruption that goes on, you begin to wonder, are those people who are stealing these funds, do they have psychiatric problems? Somebody was saying with over $43 million in a room. Are you crazy? What are you going to do with that kind of money?
Okay, now let's also look at it this way, because at the end of the day, we have three tiers of government, the federal, the state, and the local. Let me push aside the federal for now, and let's concentrate on the state and the local. There have been a lot of criticisms, a lot of speculations based on realities on ground that the state legislative arms of government, have intentionally connived with the respective governors across the country to stifle the powers of the local government. Now, we can never undermine the power of the local government in terms of restructuring some of these issues, addressing issues of poverty, addressing issues of youth restiveness, addressing issues of security in the country. Now, we have a state governor who's supposed to be the chief security officer of that state. There is also a commissioner of police, and then the respective chains in that order. What exactly are our governors doing? Because at the end of the day, we hear them scream. They have also budgetary allocations from the federal. Internally generated revenue and the rest of those. But then everybody screams federal, 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 knowing fully well that the governors, the local government chairmen have the buck to play in making the states grow.
Do you want an honest answer? Now,
an honest, plain answer.
Plain answer.
Yes.
The honest, plain answer is that we've been having thieves as governors all through this dispensation. Outright thieves. When I say outright thieves,
dispensation, you can say in our history as a country. Under the 1999
Constitution.
Okay, then.
You started clearly by saying under the Constitution we have three tiers of government. But in reality, we only have two. That's the federal and the state. At the state level, they appropriate the entire budgetary allocation to the state under what they call the state and local government joint accounts.
Yeah.
And then what they do is they give pittance to pay salaries to local government. And this cuts across the whole country. So you have governors who have been stealing the entire budgets of local governments and lining their pockets with it. And when they even leave office, I mean, that's where the harm is even caused. If I call them thieves now, they have immunity while they're in office. Now, those that have left office, how many of them have been prosecuted for stealing local government funds? Zero.
Well, unfortunately, we have some of them in the Senate.
No, but, well, I mean...
Just to mention.
No, the Senate, they don't have immunity. They can be prosecuted.
Yeah, then, but we have some of them as senators,
It cuts across, and it only requires leadership. The President Attorney General of the Federation can institute action against all those state governors that stole these local government accounts. In my own state, I mean, nothing is going on. The Bushes has taken over the local government secretariat because all the funds due to this local government area is in the pockets of the governor, and nobody's talking about it. And we're saying we're fighting security. We are not serious in this country, for goodness sake. And then that's why I asked, if you want very clear answers, it is known. It is not even, it's who will ventilate it. And when you ventilate it, they say, okay, you are talking too much. But the reality is this. By the time we begin to prosecute those governors, and there are a plethora of them, who are they don't have immunity again, you prosecute them for what? It's a simple question. You got so and so billions for local government area during your tenure. How many did he give to local government areas? The answer is he has no answer.
But let's look at it in reality.
Yes.
Because a lot of the scenario you've painted already.
Good.
It seems some of these individuals, they hide under the shred of immunity.
For
4 years, 8 years, as the case may be, if they get a return ticket, 8 years. They do a whole lot to sabotage the system.
Yes.
When they leave in office, of course, I mean, let's not even talk about the emoluments they have to go with at the end of the day.
Well, you cannot prosecute them. They don't
For
have
the
immunity
striving of the people. Now, the issue should be, it's not just about 8 years and then you've left office. The issue should be, justice also should be done timely. That's the first rule. Justice should be done timely.
Yes.
In Nigeria now, do you think probably a way to going around this and then ending this madness, if I can refer to it as madness, is removing immunity? Do you think removing immunity from these governors will help?
Well, if you remove immunity from governors, you have to also remove it from the president.
Well, if we do remove it from the president and from the governors,
Good.
do you think it will help?
Well, it will not really help because it's a systemic problem. I mean, the systemic problem is this.
Okay, I may have to hold you, please, on that point. Let's quickly take Prince's opinion. Good morning, Prince.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for joining in on the program. Go ahead and make your contributions.
Hello, good morning.
Yes,
Good morning,
we can
sir.
hear you.
How are you?
Oh, we are fine. Nigeria is fine, as fine can be.
Yes, I just want to contribute a little bit.
Okay.
You know, you made you said that there's a book written by retired General Akinjide that people have in the Senate are a bunch of thieves or whatever. And the gentleman, which is a lawyer, I know him very well, is a good friend, but, you know, he said that what the general said is wrong. But he just, made the same comment that people in the Senate are ex-governors, that governors are criminals, are thieves. The whole system is messed up. The National Assembly, the Senate, the House of Reps. So the only way for us to get this country, our acts together, is to flush out all of them from A to Z. That's the only way. You know, if there's any other way we can contribute, there's only way I think this country can move forward. If not, all those people, the General said, they are all criminals. They are all thieves. That's the only way.
Thank you, Prince. Thank you for your contributions.
Well, what Prince said is not very far from reality. At the recent conference I attended, the Southeast South-South Network Conference, we structured for the restructuring and renovation of Nigeria because our problem is systemic.
Okay, now look,
if we don't go to the root, the very root of it, and begin to like...
The first thing,
yes.
This seems, because now you just brought up something I was trying so hard not to mention.
Okay.
Now, yes, restructuring of the country has its benefit, it has its perks.
Yes.
But yet,
yes.
you want to restructure the polity to give more credence to individuals who have not even made justice with so far with the resources they have.
Yes.
Why don't you consider a massive campaign of restructuring the individuals we have in this country? Restructuring, reworking the psychic of everybody in this country first before you begin to push for restructuring of the polity. Because it's like taking a food from a child and in fact giving everything to that thief. But anyway, let's quickly take this other call. Hello, good morning. Hello? Oh, we lost that caller. Please do call us and, of course, make your comments.
Don't misunderstand restructuring. Restructuring is like giving power back to the people.
Back to the people.
Because for now, there is...
In this essence, in this case,
yes,
who? The governor?
No,
the state governors?
not the governor. The reality is now,
there is too much
power centered at the federal level, which is far removed from the people. If it was restructured so that the powers resides more in the local government areas, or even at smaller units.
We have a state. We have state governors who do not want to give credence to the local.
They have pocketed the local government
in the midst of nothing.
Good.
Now think about what will happen.
Yes.
Think about what will happen when restructuring is in place, when they have absolute power. Do you even think the local government will be able to breathe? We don't even have local government autonomy. Even so far, let's look at what's happening in the country. Across board. States have allocations. How good? We have good number of states who have not been able to pay salaries now, despite the bailout funds which were given to the states.
Yes.
At the end of the day, come on, what's happening? Let's take Tony's call. Hello, Tony, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and make your contributions.
Hello, this is what I want to contribute about.
Yeah.
Is the local government, it starts with the question.
Come again, please.
Is the local government and state government account, is it constitutional?
There's a joint, states have made laws to make sure that all local government areas have one.
Local government and state government account, is it constitutional?
Yes, it is constitutional in the sense that state governments have made laws and they've passed laws to ensure that local government accounts are jointly controlled by the state government.
Yeah. Hello, Tony, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If it is constitutional, I quite disagree on the first caller who said that they should scrap the present people in government as in those people in the National Assembly whom we presume they are corrupt, who are wallowing the local government account. So why can't the federal government scrap out that local government account and make it just straight account to the state, so that the state now can take care of the local government instead of allocating special amounts to local government, which will not go directly to them, otherwise it goes to the state government. Well, so why can't it go straight to the state? Then the state that takes care of the local government.
Well, it cannot go...
All right, Tony, thank you for your contribution.
Let me answer it. The Constitution gives states the powers to make laws for local governance, for local government governance. So what it now means is that the states can make certain laws, and under that power, they have made this law that compels a joint account with local governments, which the governor now just simply sits over. And that's the unfortunate part of it. But then what
But Barrister, when these laws are made in aberration to the people, in terms of the local government and then the people directly on the grassroots, the National Assembly, what role do you think they have a role to play?
You see,
in addressing that issue?
They have a role to play. The role they have to play is that when you look at even the entire 1999 Constitution, if you do remember, when the former president, Olusegun was sworn in, there was even no constitution upon which he was sworn in, because it was still in the works. It was some days thereafter that Abdulsalami Abubakar and his cohorts manufactured the 1999 Constitution, which was replete with typographical and grammatical and functional errors. Nobody saw it until it was thrown at us. Now, when we talk of restructuring and renegotiating Nigeria, it starts with the Constitution. We have to ask ourselves, the very first words of the Constitution, we the people of Nigeria give unto ourselves, is a fraud. Because we didn't give ourselves nothing. Yes. It was given to us by Abdulsalami Abubakar, general. And on the day of Obasanjo's swearing in, nobody had seen it. So that's when we now came up and we now had these documents, and every day we're talking of new things to change. The local government issue is one that must be addressed, but there's a loophole which we are exploring. The loophole is this. The law says that the funds should be given to constitutionally elected local government areas. Most states don't have
caretaker committees.
They all have caretaker committees. So there's a process online now to challenge even giving any state funds that has not conducted local government elections.
Okay, quickly, let's take Cyril.
Yes.
Hello, Cyril, good morning. Thank you for joining in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, I'm calling from Abuja. My name is Cyprian Agashieze.
Cyprian, you're welcome.
Cyprian.
Thank you. I want to contribute on the issue of restructuring. What is actually militating against it? Because the people who do not want restructuring give the impression that restructuring will lead to dismemberment of the country. No, it is not. Okay. It is strategic areas. For instance, on revenues, on control of the police, on this issue of local government autonomy and the issue of joint account, that laws will be made, the constitution will be amended to reflect these areas that breed corruption on its own.
Okay, so
corruption just emerges because there is so much concentration of power and resources in the center, and then people struggle to control it. And these resources are not emanating from either taxes or the resources that come from a place that will be used for that place. All the resources are taken to the center, and therefore people struggle to control the center so that they will be in charge of these resources and deploy them the way they want.
Okay,
this breeds corruption. Yeah. But if we do restructuring and then we talk about derivation to a particular extent, control of the police, control of the funds of local government by the local government themselves, you now know, and then the issue of taxation will be taken seriously.
All right, Cyril, thank you for your contributions. We have Thompson on the line. Good morning, Thompson.
Hello?
Good morning. Thank you for holding on there.
I said, no, not Thompson, Johnson.
Johnson. Oh, Johnson. Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah, hi. It's supposed to know now.
Yeah, welcome. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My sister. You see, number one, restructuring, it's fine. But nevertheless, I'm of the opinion that I don't want local government to even, I don't like anything like local government. Someone like me, I don't like it. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Because we know the kind of life they live. I knew about the chairman then. He stayed in the boss quarter. But when this guy won the election, he left the local government. I'm serious. He had, even if I should blow the whistle, I had nothing less than 7 hotels, big hotels there in Ibadan. What are we not talking about?
That's good. Go ahead and blow the whistle.
If they can appoint a caretaker, the one that will be of low resources, I think that was very. I knew about the councillor. He awarded 49 motorcycles to his own younger brother alone. So if that one should be the case, I want that. I don't want anything like chairman again and councillor. Let them go. God, don't even know them.
All right, Johnson.
They enter, they won't stay within the community again.
Johnson, if you don't blow the whistle,
thank you, Johnson.
On that man you know who has several hotels,
it will continue.
You are part of the problem. And we have to be very factual. If you know something is strong and you don't speak out, you are part of the problem. Then you don't have to complain. I think I appreciate very much the comments made by Cyprian Agashieze just not too long ago.
No, we're rounding up, sir. Okay. Let me quickly ask this question now. Okay. So far, the bulk of the states in the country are owing salaries, despite the bailout funds, despite the allocations. Now, do you think the federal government will be right in withholding further allocations to these state governors until they meet up with an ultimatum to paying up salaries? Because we're rounding up now, we have to go quickly.
Well, the issue is not just basically salaries. If you give out money and the monies are misappropriated, you know what to do. If the governor has immunity, the support of his commissioners, his other lieutenants, you go after them and arrest them. Then get where these monies
But then, of course, they have immunity. But then,
no, the governor only has immunity. The commissioners and others around don't have immunity.
But then, do you think the federal government will be right in so far holding on to their allocations, further allocations, until they do what is expected of them?
No, the federal government cannot. It will be unconstitutional to do that because it will be starving the states. But then the issue is not.
But then isn't it unconstitutional to withhold the people of the fundamental human right? It
is very unconstitutional. That's why the federal government should be more proactive. Don't just say you gave them money and they misappropriate the money. If you give them the money, governors don't just cut away the money in their cars and drive off. They have a driver who doesn't have immunity. They have a finance commissioner. They have lieutenants who don't have immunity. By the time you get all these people around them paralyzed in a locker somewhere, that money will not be stealing again.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.